Hi guys, welcome back to Wand of the Nation's Rage and this painting vlog series. This is part 3 of the Institution of the Heart. Freshly renamed and slightly adjusted concept of an original drawing that I did last year. And, well, if you guys saw part 2, then you watched me completely cover everything and just submerge everything in shadow. I am working under an LED light, and so it's quite bright under that light, and I may have went a little bit too extreme when I darkened everything up, because right here you can see me, I'm trying to fill in and do some what I would call modeling, and I'm having a really hard time finding my lines. I'm actually struggling with it quite a bit, and I'm having to bend in certain ways and just lean in certain directions so that I can actually see the lines. And what's funny is that the camera's actually picking them up pretty decently, but I was having a really hard time seeing them. So what I'm doing right here is what I would consider modeling, and I'm basically just going over each shape that has been blocked in, and I'm giving it its own individual tone and value compared to the rest of it. And that took a while, so I skipped forward to my next step, and basically what I did to the floor, I'm sorry that I didn't film it, but I went in with a green because I finally decided what color I wanted to make it, make the floor, those tiles. I wanted to make them a sort of green color, so I used olive green, and I went in and I just filled in each individual square to the best of my ability, trying to follow my original lines that I put in, even though I couldn't see them very well. And basically didn't adjust the tone very much from where it was at. I just added green, but it was at about the same value as the shadow that I put in from the last video. Then I actually went back over it with a lighter green. It was actually the same color, but I just added a little bit of mixing white to it, and I used the blending glaze medium to do some blending, just try to give everything some decent shape. And I love that stuff. It's great. It really makes the paint fluid and easily controllable. It makes it very smooth to accomplish whatever you're trying to accomplish with it. Right here, I'm trying to do the same thing, so I'm lightening up the top part of the walls and the ceiling. And what I'm planning on doing is actually, basically the same thing, adding texture to the walls. After I put in that first coat, I'm going to add the texture to the walls with the blending glaze. And I'm following the same principle that I have, in every other step that I made. And that is adding the cool grays in the background, and then putting a neutral in the middle, and then finally putting the warmer gray in the foreground. The theory with that is that cool colors tend to push things back and warm colors tend to bring things forward. And it works pretty good. It's a good concept. So basically what I decided to do is just add a layer of wet paint down on the canvas and then add my color over top of it. So with using the blending glaze, I can actually just blend the color that I'm putting down on the canvas with the thin layer of the shadow. And it's a good theory. It works pretty good, but the one mistake I made is that I was happy with my results in the far background with the cool colors, but right here I found that what I tried to do is I tried to speed the process up by that thin layer that I added initially. I put the blending glaze in that layer that I added, and what I found is that it's a lot more difficult to get a good blend when you do that, because you can actually go overboard with that blending glaze, and when you do it, it tends to make the paint really muddy and hard to work with because it's just too thin. One way to fix it is by adding straight up paint into the layer that you put on the canvas. It might actually be a way that people paint, but I wasn't real happy with the results that I got. It's a lot like using graphite and charcoal when you're drawing. If you use the blending stump too much, then you can actually make the charcoal or the graphite muddy, and then it's kind of hard to work with. It's hard to adjust. Well, it's the same thing with oil paint when you add too much of that glaze. So that's what you're seeing right here, is I'm trying to add thicker paint down on top of the thin layer that I added earlier, and well, it doesn't look good. It looks muddy, but I decided that I was going to try something else and try to fix it in the end. I think overall I did, and I kind of got the strategy down, whatever I was trying to go for. I think in the end it turned out decent. I painted for a long time today, and I feel like I didn't get much accomplished. I feel like I didn't really start achieving until probably 8 hours after I had been painting. It took a long time to paint all those tiles, and like I said, it was hard to find my lines because I went way too dark in the last video. But I'm glad I did that, because the undertone is really showing. You'll see it at the end of the video. I'll show you how far I got today. But I'm glad that I went that dark, but at the same time it really made it hard to keep track of where all my framework was. So it just took a lot longer to paint today. I've been tending to get kind of discouraged with this painting because I will paint for hours and hours and hours, and by the end of it I just feel like I haven't really got much accomplished. I feel like things that it might take other people, an hour or two to get done, it might take me 4 hours to get it done. And I'll admit I'm learning. I'm still learning how to use oil paint. It is its own thing, and you gotta have some understanding about pigment. You gotta have some understanding about the contents of the paint itself, and how it's gonna react in certain ways. And I'm learning all that still. It's pretty complicated. There's a science to it for sure. But I've found that, I am spending a lot more time mixing my colors carefully, just trying to get the accurate color that I'm going for. And I am, just painting this. I don't have a reference. I had the original drawing that I used to help me frame everything out in the beginning, but I'm not looking at the drawing anymore. I'm actually just using my imagination, and I know what I want it to look like, and it's just taking me a while to actually make it look the way that I want it to look, the way that I imagine it in my mind. So I know it seems pretty counterproductive that in the last video I spent, how long is that video? Like 45 minutes. I spent 45 minutes making everything really dark. And then I just turned around and I lightened everything back up again. But like I said, you can still see that dark undertone that I added in the last video. You can see it, and I think it looks better than it would look if I hadn't have gone that dark. I think it looks better. There's more contrast to it, and what you see me doing right there is I'm blending the lighter colors. Cause see, the top part of the walls and the ceiling, I picked a color that I wanted to make them, and it's just titanium buff and cadmium yellow mixed together. So I made the color for the top of the walls and the ceiling, and then, well, I have to blend that with the color of the shadows. At first I was a little reluctant to go back to making everything so bright. And I kind of had an argument with myself about it in my head, like, do I want to go bright again, or do I want to keep it this dark? But I think that overall it's gonna work in the end. The reason why I wanted it to be so dark is because I want the light that's going to be coming from behind the door that's in the far background at the end of the hallway. I want it to be very intense. but the value that I'm using here, it's not that close to pure white. So I've got, plenty of room to come up on the tone in the end when I finish. But yep, that's what I did today. Alright guys, I have got to stop. I've been painting for probably 14 hours today. Got a lot done. Definitely accomplished a lot today and got to a good stopping point. Now I have to edit this video, which is gonna take a while as well. Do the voiceover. I'm happy with where it is at this point. Obviously the next thing I'm gonna have to do is work on all the woodwork, the doors, the lower wall, and all that good stuff. It's a little bit brighter in the back than I originally planned on making it. But it's not gonna matter by the time it's done, and you guys are gonna see why. Because I'm literally saving the best part for last. I have to. It's just the way that it's gonna be. I've still got quite a way to go, but I'm getting there, and I'm happy with what I did get accomplished today. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in part 4. Alright, take it easy.